Coming out of the anomalous closet as an experiencer is not only very vulnerable, but it's actually scary. It's actually dangerous sometimes. And when you've gone through anomalous trauma or anomalous experiences of any kind, you might have also had to suffer a great sense of isolation, loneliness, confusion, doubt in the self, and in everything around you. It's very disorienting, and it takes a lot of courage and strength and inner wisdom to be able to ground and continue to move through reality while you know things that others don't yet know. Welcome back to Shocks Talks. My name is Shakti. Today I'm going to talk about coming out of the anomalous closet and why I make this channel. I'm going to try to keep it nice and short, and next week I'm going to talk about Alien Goddess, the book by Joanna Kuyawa. I'm almost done with it. I didn't want to rush through it today to finish because it's getting better the more it goes on, so I wanted to really take my time with the last couple of chapters, so we'll hear about that next time. And I tried to set up my new camera today, but I just didn't have the patience for figuring it out. So we're doing another old down and dirty episode, and things will get better. They'll keep getting better. So, my history, my background, I have the name Shakti because I was raised on a yoga ashram by two parents who loved me very much and gave me a wonderful life and provided me with all of the support I needed to get where I am today. And I will always honor them, but I've also been horrible to them at times, like most kids are. I've been ungrateful, I've been confused, I've been bitter. We've gone through our stuff and we've worked through a lot, but the context is that they both got into yoga at a really young age, kind of a little bit before it was super popular, but a little bit after the old hippies. People would always ask me, were your parents hippies? Technically, no, my parents were too young to be hippies, but it was the hippie movement that brought all of these Indian gurus to the United States in the 60s and 70s. And my parents met and began following one of those gurus. That was Swami Satchidananda. And the ashram that I grew up on is Satchidananda Ashram, Yogaville. So if you've heard about that ashram, you might know that there is controversy, there is scandal, as with all ashrams, and as with most gurus, there was a falling from grace. It came out later in his life that he had been having sexual relationships with women and that perhaps he was abusing the power dynamic. I haven't done a ton of research into that situation because at first it was just so emotionally disturbing for me. It was something that I never knew was happening. He was not someone that was harmful to me, but it is something that did happen, and that the people that are talking about it and coming out with their stories, some of them are people that I know and that I grew up around. They were adults when I was a kid. So that's that. um, that's my weird background. And because of that, I always felt really, really weird. Before the scandal was even a thing, I already felt super weird just having the name Shakti, being out in the world where, like, everybody else around me was quote unquote normal. And I had grown up meditating and doing yoga and talking to God in my mind and having telepathic connections with angels and fairies and seeing little orbs and seeing other little visions, and all kinds of other anomalous, beautiful things were happening in my childhood because I was super open, and I was also being inundated with a lot of esoteric materials from many different world cultures because in our ashram, the motto was truth is one, paths are many. So we studied not only the Hindu teachings and Sanskrit prayers and yogic ways, but we learned the rosary. We learned other spiritual practices. I grew up having Passover and also having Shivaratri and also having Christmas and also having all kinds of other people from other cultures coming and teaching us songs and dances and all this stuff. So they were really, it was that time in reality where these adults were really trying something different, and parts of it worked and a lot of parts of it didn't work because, come to find out, communities are only as good as each individual that makes up that community. So we all have to kind of take a step back from the idea that just organizing into new structures is going to be the solution to our problems in this materialist capitalist reality, and actually consider that we need to start with ourselves as individuals, and then from there we can build stronger structures and systems when all of the individuals that make it up are functioning at a high level, are self sufficient, are healthy mentally and physically, are able to support one another, are specializing in different things, and that there is mutual respect for that diversity in the group. We're just not there yet as a culture, but we're going to get there. I have hope. I believe in us. We can do this. And so that was my early childhood. I also had childhood trauma, like so many anomalous experiencers. I had a long chunk of time where I just tried to be normal and learned how to mask and be really successful in my like early school years, and then things started catching up with me again after college. I started to go to therapy and uncover some of the childhood traumas that I had gone through that had nothing to do with the ashram, but did have some strange connections to actually the gateway tapes and abuse and yeah, it's a whole story for another day. But I wasn't in the gate program, but the person in my life who was behaving inappropriately with me as a young child was also someone who was very interested in what was going on at the Monroe Institute, and he would bring those cassette tapes and have me listen to them as a child. So I don't know what was going on there. That person is no longer in my life. But that was my childhood abuser. So as you can tell, there was already a little bit of that seed of strangeness starting to grow. And later in life, in my 20s, I went through an extreme dark night of the soul where I also was rebelling against all the strict rules of my upbringing, which included like, we don't do drugs, we don't drink alcohol, we don't smoke, we don't eat meat. We're pure vessels for these yogic teachings. And I just didn't like being controlled. So then I rebelled really hard against all of that, but I waited till much later in life to do it because I was a little goody two shoes when I was growing up, and I was really afraid of conflict and afraid of the authority figures around me. And I was so sensitive to everyone's feelings and energies that it was my preference to manage the world around me by being what they needed and wanted me to be in order to smooth my own path. And then I just learned how to create a persona for a really long time that served me in reality. And then in my 20s, when I began rebelling and also experimenting more with drugs, and also fell madly in love with another traumatized, anomalous experiencer, possibly with mental health issues, who ended up becoming abusive towards me, everything came crumbling down. And I was really just like completely stripped raw. All of my shields, all of my masks, all of my layers were smashed and shattered and just crumbled off of me. And I was just this raw, ultra sensitive, psychic baby in the world in my 20s. And then I really had to ground and then build back up from there. I had to go home and live with my parents for a while I sorted out what was going on with me. And during that time, I did a lot of spiritual study and practice. I got closer to nature again. I lived in a tent for a while. And then I was just doing very humble work, like painting houses a little bit and cleaning. And I was I was reading a lot, and I was starting to get into Tom Campbell's work, and I was also digging back into the ancient yogic teachings to make sense of some of what I had gone through. And then that kind of led me towards just uncovering more and more and more about the specifics of some of my anomalous experiences that had maybe the flavor of encounters, like seeing things in the sky, seeing things overlaid over reality that looked like an AR overlay, or having mental intrusive thoughts and maybe connecting to non physical entities, maybe being possessed by entities, maybe having a little schizophrenic meltdown as a result of all of the voices that I was hearing because my psyche was so open to information in a way that it hadn't been since I was a very young child, and I had completely forgotten how to deal with that and what to do with it. And so, all this is to say, I went through a really hard time, but what I ended up deciding is that in order to get to the bottom of all of this, I was going to have to first heal myself, second, repair the relationships with the people that mattered most to me, and then from there begin to build a legitimate life in physical matter reality so that I could prove to myself and everyone around me that I wasn't crazy, and at the same time, provide myself with the support to be able to study and go deeper into the anomalous at the same time. So I basically set forward on a path of walking with one foot in each world, and I'm still doing it to this day. I've accomplished a lot in material reality. People were really generous with their experience and knowledge and taught me things that I never knew. And I sculpted for 6 years, and then I became a creative director. I understand my privilege, but I also understand how far I came in a relatively short amount of time because I chose to. And when I learned about Tom Campbell's work, I decided, okay, there's some really good stuff in here. Not only does he share his own experiences and his conclusions about the nature of reality, but he also provides us with practical tools that we can use to have our own consciousness experience of lowering entropy and moving towards greater love and connectedness and actually having a better like material experience in reality because of all of that and just learning our lessons and instead of having to repeat them over and over again. I took it to heart. I applied what I learned, and I have been seeing excellent results now for a long time, and it's only getting better. So the reason I'm making this channel is to just to keep on putting myself out there because it was all the other people who did just that that gave me the courage to keep going when times were really dark and really hard. I also learned a lot from people. I learned a lot from researchers and experiencers and historians and everyone who has studied and written about the UFO topic, consciousness, and psi. But I also learned a lot from just people on the internet who just shared their weird personal experiences. It helped me put a lot of puzzle pieces together. And so, even if this is a little rough around the edges, I know that there's still value in what I do for at least some people out there because at least some of you have left comments and told me how you feel. And I have friends who have really expressed their gratitude and their love for what I do here. So that's enough for me. If it's just even one person that's getting something out of it, it's worth it. But I know there's more people out there that could benefit from hearing some of what I talk about on this channel. So hopefully you can help me by just doing whatever you can do to share an episode or like an episode or leave a comment. That would be awesome. And right now, I am really focused because the practical application of Tom Campbell's methods and theories was so effective in my life and helped me to level up in so many ways. Now I'm taking that same method and applying it to my psi. So I've learned about people who had natural psychic abilities, but it wasn't until they started to harness it, to cultivate it consciously, that they were able to have control and use it at will for good, for useful purposes, for real tangible results in physical matter reality. So that's what I'm doing this season and this year and this phase in my life for however long it takes is I'm really going deeper into my energetic practices, my meditation practice, my remote viewing, and trying out some other size skills along the way. Mostly I'm interested in continuing to develop my intuitive or telepathic senses, my perceptive abilities of understanding thought forms and energy forms and people and systems so that I can have a better impact on this reality and be more effective in it because there's a lot that I want to see change. I'm a feminist. I care about people. I care about diversity and equality and mostly just everyone having their basic needs met and feeling love and respect. And then from there, I want to see everyone flourishing. I want to see everyone living their best life, feeling as good as possible, being understood and supported by others, and having whatever unique experience they came here to have. Because it is my belief that we have many experiences before our lives on earth and many experiences after. I'd also really like to gain my own direct knowledge of the larger consciousness system via the out of body experience, like Robert Monroe and Tom Campbell and Darius J. Wright and so many others. A new teacher that I just learned about based on Luis Minero's work, who I got into a couple years ago, is Nancy Trivolato, and another woman, Jade Shaw. And then Abby Harries is another woman who speaks of her own astral experiences online. And I've gained some insights from some of what she's shared as well. I make this channel to connect with others who I can be of use to, who I can serve. I make this channel to keep myself on the path of research, and also I make it to express myself because I am multifaceted just like you, and the inner nerd has to come out, and this is where she likes to play. So that's another reason why I make this channel. I just need to express this part of me. This is my special interest. Sometimes when I watch these episodes, I actually am like, who even is that talking? It just feels like so different from some other expressions of myself, but I've always been distinctly multifaceted. And someone just told me yesterday, like, you're a true chameleon. I've seen you change over the years, and you've changed dramatically to the point where people don't even recognize me because I've had so many different looks. But it's not just the way I do my hair or my outfits or whatever, it's actually my energy. And what this friend was telling me was that he understood that the way I appear is an expression of how I'm feeling on the inside. And I just loved so much to be seen in that way, and that he understood that about me. It just felt like so amazing to hear that. And those are the kinds of little beautiful moments that life can offer you when you're on a path of love, where it's not just material wealth or status that you're gaining, which it might be, but you might also just have these internal euphoric moments of deep love, gratitude, synchronicities, or just feeling seen, feeling understood. And that really makes life so rich. And so I just want to make sure that everybody knows that, like, the benefits of going on a spiritual path and actually trying out for yourself some of these techniques and seeing what results does it yield? It's a very rewarding experiment. At least it has been for me. So, more experimentation, more learning, and more self expression is what you can expect on this channel, at least for the next few episodes. And then eventually I would like to get into interviewing, but I just haven't made a game plan for that yet. I've only done this channel for 2 years, and so far it's all been practice for whatever I'm going to do next. I don't know what that will be, but this is me just getting myself used to forming thoughts and sharing them, because it's not easy. So anyway, thank you for being here with me. I appreciate you taking the time to get to know me on this little episode. I hope this channel helps you to come out of the anomalous closet if you're stuck in there, because it's lonely and it's dark, and there's a lot of people out here that can understand even the weirdest things that you think no one has ever spoken about. All it takes is one person saying, "Oh yeah, I had this weird time where time froze and everybody was holding really still, but it almost looked like they were still breathing, but all the sound in the store went out, and then it just clicked back on and they were all moving again and all the sound was going again." And I don't know why that happened. I never wanted to tell anyone that. Okay, this is an actual experience that happened to me, but it's also an example, because sometimes things are so bizarre that you think no one wants to hear that. They'll just think I'm crazy. Well, not all of us will. And when you do come out of the anomalous closet, you are putting yourself at risk. It is scary, it's vulnerable, it can even be dangerous. So do what you got to do to stay safe emotionally, energetically, and in all ways. But just know that there are people who will understand you, who do get it, and all of us, for all the things that we've shared, probably have other things that we haven't shared. So we're waiting for the time when it feels safe and right to do so, but we need to connect and create like a web of energetic safety in order for more of us to be able to come out. Because it's only when we're all actually speaking about reality in an honest way that we can expect to see greater shifts happening across the collective. Thank you so much for being here with me. Next week, we'll talk about Alien Goddess by Joanna Kuyawa, and I'll see you next time on Shocks Talks.